about to experience Healthline, a show where doctors from Makati Med interact with you for a healthy, uplifting lifestyle. Moderated by Nicole Jacinto. You've got questions, we've got answers. So welcome to Healthline.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Healthline with Makati Med. I'm your host, Nicole Jacinto. It is August 28th here in the Philippines. And I don't know what date it is in the part of the world that you're in, but this show can be watched over and over again via streaming. And of course, you know that you can check out our DZRJ 8:10 a.m. sa Radyo Bandido YouTube channel. And we are on Facebook as well. Right now, we're live on TV and radio here in Manila. Good afternoon, doctor. How are you?
Hi, good afternoon, Nicole.
Okay.
Am I being heard?
Yes, I can hear you well. Thank you very much, doctor. So today our topic, folks, is palliative care. And what is palliative care? Well, we're going to find out right now. So welcome to the show, Dr. Marie Joan Hosson.
Hi, Nicole. It's been a while.
I know it's been a while.
Yeah. The last time we had our interview.
8 years, is it? Okay.
Or 6, probably like
6,
that.
yeah, something. Okay. I'm not really going to do the math right now.
Pre-pandemic.
Yes, pre-pandemic, exactly. And I was going to say that we've met before, just so the audience knows, and we've met in person, like pre-pandemic, face to face. And I remember I had a very, very interesting and informative discussion with you, and you're such a nice person.
Thank you.
And I think that's needed in your line of work. Yeah. And I wanted to, actually, I'm glad you came back on, doctor, because as you know, as you folks know out there, when we revisit topics, we are also revisiting knowledge. And every time I do the show, I really put it out there that I hope the information gets to the people who really need to know these things the most. So thank you for being on the show, doctor. Thank you for sharing your time with us, your energy, your effort, and answering our questions today. As we say, you've got questions, we've got answers. And today, if you have any questions about palliative care in Makati Med, do send in your questions. So, Dr. Hosson, what is palliative care for those out there? For all of us, actually.
Yeah, no, palliative care hasn't changed since the time we saw each other, the same topic that we've been doing, but a lot have been interested already on what really it is. So palliative care is a specialty, it's a very young specialty, but we really cater into patients who are chronically ill, who have life debilitating illnesses, not only the dying, because that's the always thing that they see. It's palliative care is always end of life, but it's actually about quality of life. We are here to be a layer of support to the patient and their families in terms of addressing their not only their physical, but their psychosocial, spiritual, and emotional needs in their journey of their illness. So mostly it's really the cancer patients who need palliative care, but a lot of other illnesses, such as I mentioned, any chronic illness, life-limiting or debilitating illnesses, palliative care can be of help in terms of supporting their other aspects of care.
Okay, so doctor, you've actually told us a bit of who receives palliative care. No, I'm glad you brought that up. And you're saying that just to bounce off something that you said, you're a young specialty, meaning, so how long has palliative care been around, more or less?
Roughly 20 years.
Okay, roughly 20 years. Okay. And when we say palliative, it means, I guess, something like soothing or helping without curing, right?
Yes.
Something like that. So
palliate means to alleviate, right?
Okay, alleviate.
To relieve from the suffering.
To relieve from the suffering. But the thing is here, you're not involved in curing because a lot of the illnesses cannot be cured anymore.
That's correct. It's more healing than the curing part.
Okay. So doctor, you also mentioned earlier that when we talk about palliative care, immediately we think of end of life, right? And of course, it's usually cancer patients, or perhaps what are the other common illnesses that just so that people know what are the other perhaps common illnesses wherein palliative care is involved for patients when it comes to end of life type of things.
Okay, we want to dwell. We don't want to dwell too much on the end of
Yes, we'll
life,
go back
but
to
that's
the
part
chronic.
of it, right?
Yes.
That's part
Yeah.
of the chronic illnesses. But once a patient is diagnosed with life-limiting illnesses such as neurologic illnesses, so we have the stroke, we have dementia. For
Mhm.
frail persons, older persons, we also take care of them. And
Okay.
then for chronic illnesses, for any end-stage heart, kidney, lung, liver, those are
Mhm.
our patients. So I've been mentioning a lot in the adults, but this also entails pediatrics, Nicole. So we
Yeah.
also deal with pediatric patients, no, when they're diagnosed with life-limiting illnesses. So congenital illnesses, and so they need also support from the palliative care services. And apart from that, is not only the patient, but more of their family members. Now, for the pediatric patients, the supportive means of palliative care is dwelling on the supportive needs of the patient, the families, or the formal caregivers of these patients.
Okay, doctor, thank you for going there. I know I went to the end of life first and examples of those illnesses so that we can get our understanding of that. I'm sure questions pop up into our mind, sort of out of the way for this conversation, so we can focus more on the other things that you do, as you said. Palliative care is not limited to end of life, but okay, we understand that now, right? When you can't
Mhm.
cure diseases. Now, when it comes to chronic illnesses, you mentioned a number of them under the different, I guess, parts of the body or different diseases or illnesses that people might have, conditions. And you said you mentioned a lot of things for adults, and you said there's also for pediatric. Sorry. Now, when it comes to chronic illnesses, okay, you also help people who have chronic illnesses, meaning it won't kill them, but it affects
Quality
their
of
way
life.
of life, their quality
Mhm.
of life. Okay. So doctor, can you perhaps can we talk about some of that so that people know that they have a doctor to go to? Or actually, okay, how do you find patients? Are they often referred to you, or can someone go straight to you?
Actually, we are really a referral based in terms of the services that we do.
Mhm.
But since I've told you things have changed, people
Yes.
have more knowledge about palliative care.
Mhm.
So they don't only Google, but they also have relatives or friends who have already received palliative care, which is something that's very exciting for us because it's more accepted in terms of not being too scared. You know, we're
Yes.
always thought of the Grim Reaper, Nicole. We want to
Yes.
shy
Yes.
away from that term.
Yeah.
So we want to help our patients and their families go through that journey of their illness when they get when they've been diagnosed already.
Okay.
So like what you're saying, let's give an example of a
We're gonna
chronic
go through that
illness.
today, doctor. Don't worry. We will
Yeah.
talk about things. I understand that there is this stigma that, oh my God, don't go to palliative care because the Grim Reaper, that means you have no more hope of being cured, and it is very depressing and heavy. Of course, we have to accept that some people will really have those illnesses and conditions, and you're the doctors and you're the team that they go to. But there are other illnesses as well that you can help with, chronic illnesses that affect the quality of life. Now, yeah, you mentioned, like, so can anyone of any age possibly be referred to you if they have illnesses? Is there a certain demographic, or does it so happen that, in your practice, you've seen people from different types of ages being referred to you? Hello, doctor?
Nicole?
Yeah. Hi. Sorry, did
Yeah.
you hear my question, doctor?
Yes, yes. But I was cut off.
Oh, you
Well,
were
I
cut
was
off.
cut off.
Okay.
No,
Sorry.
I'm asking if was I cut off? Did I
A little
No.
bit. Yes, yes. Okay.
Okay. So we cater to from pediatrics to adults, even to the elderlies. So there's a really big spectrum of care where
Mhm.
we deal with their all the aspects of physical, psychosocial,
Mhm.
emotional, and spiritual aspects of care. So for chronic illnesses such as heart failure,
Okay.
and organ diseases,
Mhm.
liver, lung, heart, and neurologic diseases. Those are the most common that were referred to our services.
Could someone say, doctor, since it's chronic illness that where you experience pain, like it debilitates you so much, but you are not, necessarily going to die from it, but it affects your quality of life. Have patients been referred to you who, or, could theoretically, would you treat someone who, let's say, has MS that's been arrested at a certain point, or even trigeminal neuralgia? I mean, do you get patients like that with trigeminal neuralgia that's so debilitating that they're on painkillers and they cannot, they can't live they cannot function the way they used to, or people who perhaps have other types of illnesses wherein they get affected, or people who are always, let's say, have convulsions because of different types of illness. I guess those are neurological in a sense. Can somebody do that? I mean, can you treat someone like that?
I receive referrals from the neurological services in terms of managing their pain. But at the same time, since it's a chronic illness, when the specialist will be able to address the physical symptom, I'm there to do the other aspects of care. So that's correct. It's a multidisciplinary aspect of care. So when the attending does the management in terms of pain, then we do with the psychosocial on a day-to-day, their quality of life, what makes them happy, what makes them unable to sleep, what makes them unable to eat. So those are the things that we deal with. And we have to also call in our friends from other services such as rehab, nutrition, and psych. So those are the four other aspects of palliative care where we are kind of more entwined in terms of giving better quality of life for our patients when they're debilitated, Nicole.
So if somebody, let's say if a patient came to you and they did have an attending physician who was, let's say, managing the pain or the painkiller, let's say a neurologist, because we're already on that topic, you kind of manage or supervise in a way. And just please jump in and correct me anytime, doctor. Anyway, we're old friends. I mean, anything that you mentioned, rehab, nutrition, psych, you call in the psychiatrist. Sometimes you call in, clinical nutritionists, people from their physical therapists or occupational therapists, perhaps from rehab unit. You call them in to help with the rest of the things. So of course, someone whose life has been affected so much by an illness that's debilitating, meaning you can't function the way you used to, or you can't function as quote unquote normal people would expect you to function as well as a quote unquote normal person. And it's hard to cope with that mentally, and you get even more stressed. So you call in psych, and then you have nutrition, which might help, or perhaps they can't exercise because of either the medication or their condition. And rehab, I guess, to help them as well with their physical mobility. Yes. And then when you do this, do you kind of manage everything? Because it is hard to do that on your own as an individual, as a patient.
Yeah, and even why I mentioned, Nicole, that it's a multidisciplinary team. We have to refer to the certain specialties depending on the preference of the patient. So we really discuss our goals of care and ask the first question: what is important to them? So it just comes up. So they say that first, of course, is the pain. It's debilitating. Second, you're correct. It gets them frustrated. They can't sleep at night. They ask themselves some spiritual questions also. Why me? Why is this happening? Am I being punished? So those things. We are able to do, of course, some form of counseling. And when we are not able to help them processing, that's the time when we refer to our friends in the psych department. So we do
also do the counseling.
Yes, we do basic counseling. And then when it comes to a point that it's already they need some further interventions, then we need the help of our friends from psych. Also, some medications that will also make them have, better sleep, better functionality, and lesser symptoms as well. So that's what I'm saying, that it has to be a multidisciplinary team, because all aspects of care needs to be addressed. And we, as a palliative medicine specialists, we discuss this among our patients and their families in terms of what is important to them, what is quality of life for them. So I mentioned already about nutrition, because in our culture, it's also important. They always say that I can't eat the favorite food I love, or the food doesn't taste the same. So we try as much as possible to assess their nutrition status. And then when it comes to a point that we need our friends from the nutrition team, then we refer them also for them to have their meal plans on a day-to-day. So Makati Med also has that service that they can be able to cater to the food preferences, the caloric requirements that they need. So I refer to my colleague for them to evaluate which specific food or specific calories they want, and they can be actually delivered to them. So it's a personalized thing. So we do that service also in Makati Med.
And doctor, since we're on that topic right now of nutrition, when do you get patients? Of course, you mentioned already that some say, I can't eat my favorite food, or the food tastes different. Do you have patients also who come to you and say, hey, even if I'm debilitated, I don't want to get fat, but I need to stay healthy, or I can't just keep eating and not being able to move. I'm sure there are some people who are struck down when there's a whole thing of self-image, or they're used to exercising or eating in the ways that they want to. They can change it as they want, or they can't go on certain types of diets anymore. Do you get patients like that? And how do you get patients who say that to you?
I do, Nicole. I have an example. I have an 81-year-old female who suffered from a stroke, and she used to be very active. And just imagine she had a stroke.
Yeah.
So it already enumerates the 4 things that I'm telling you: depression, not able to eat the food that she likes, not able to move like she used to. And what else? I mentioned 3 already, right? So these are the aspects of care. Yeah, these are the aspects of care where I start from a basic plan, and if we can keep up, we try to manage according to the patient's preference. So it's really case to case. It's a personalized thing where your patients tell you what is important to them, and you deal with that with them on a day-to-day basis. And then you ask our colleague friends from the different specialties to be able to give us also other activities to address their what is important to them. So in terms of nutrition, I call in my nutrition friends and then give them sample meal plans to be able to stick to what she needs, because she's hypertensive, she's also diabetic, and she was a stroke patient. So definitely we need to cater to less salty, less fatty. At the start, you were trying to do it and then monitor through blood tests, right? And then sometime we need the help of our experts already, because we need to adjust accordingly. Same with her mobility. It's important. She was doing exercises before, and now she's very frustrated. Then I have to call in the rehab, because I cannot do that. I have plans that she has to do 2 to 3 times a week of rehab, because that improves her quality of life. And then the frustration comes in, Nicole, because she can't move, and she's very athletic before. Now she can do all these things. I try to start her with medications that will help her sleep, make her less anxious. But there are times in the week that she gets really, frustrated, and then my meds can't help it anymore. So we need the psych department to do some behavioral counseling or other interventions to also help and improve her quality of life. Also, her husband. So my patient is not only my patient, but the family as well, because the husband is also getting frustrated, because they're trying to do their best to help the patient, but it seems that it doesn't come that fast. So
Yeah.
the counseling, the supportive means of care comes in because it's a cry for help, Nicole, na what to do. So these are elderly patients who had suffered from stroke and been very active before, and pandemic came, so a lot of
Yes.
things changed. No? We were so used to doing a lot of things, but when pandemic came, we were very limited because of
Mhm.
access, right?
Mhm.
And then, of course, we're trying to remove them from the risk of getting not only COVID but any other illness.
Any other illness that can weaken your immune
Yeah,
system, and
because they're scared already to go to the hospital. So there are lots of things that we want to plan for them at the home, at an
yes,
outpatient setting.
yes, okay. Thank you, doctor, for going through one specific example that actually shows everything that you do in terms of the interdisciplinary team and how it can affect someone. As you said, you encountered a patient, she struck down, and yeah, there are older people who are very active, and I just want to circle back to what you said, where you help her take or her sleep is affected. I noticed with some people that I know that if they were very active before, and for some reason they cannot move now because they either experience stroke or some kind of injury or anything like that, their sleep does get affected in terms of, I guess they think about it at night. Plus, before, when they were active, it was they were able to release endorphins.
That's
With
correct.
exercise and movement.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
circulation.
sure,
Mhm.
exercise, things that I don't do. But anyway, like exercise and all of that, and they could walk, they could do this, they could do whatever they wanted, and then yes, of course, the pandemic came, so it kind of really did. I feel for
Mhm.
older people, especially, overshadow, and kind of we're still in this grip of I cannot go up or I shouldn't go up anymore. I mean, even I feel affected that way. So what more people who have experienced um, illnesses or have gotten new illnesses during this time. So is that a thing that does good sleep help? Is what I was going to ask. And
Yeah,
do you that
definitely.
do you
It's
find
sleep hygiene. We call it sleep hygiene. So it's also important in terms of improving better quality of life. Because if they don't sleep, then they get cranky the next day. For
Mhm.
example, this patient, if she doesn't sleep, then she doesn't do her rehab, which is very
Mhm.
important for her circulation because she's a stroke patient.
Okay.
Or she's not able to eat her meals on time, or she's not able to drink her meds on time because she's sleeping the whole day,
Mm.
so it's disrupted. So these are the things that we look into, their activities on a day to day.
Mhm.
And what we can do is, of course, do a care plan. And you're correct, no, at night they think more because it's quiet, and
Yes.
the frustration sets in, the anxiety sets in, because she tells me that it's she calls it sadness. It's there, but I can't explain. No.
You are mourning your own ability, maybe,
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
know, to be able to do these things, and perhaps doubting your own self and your worth and what you can contribute, not only to yourself but to your family and the world.
That's correct. Because his husband is also 80-year-old who has suffered from heart failure. So there are
Mhm.
only two living together. Their kids have their own families already. So you would imagine how much care actually they need
Mhm.
in terms of their day to day. So my patient is an 81-year-old female who needs assistance on her day to day living because she has left sided weakness, and the husband is a heart failure patient. So how would he be able to give his 100% care in terms of physical palang, when you look at the physical,
Yes.
lifting her,
Yes.
also giving the husband a hard time. So
Mhm.
they need the caregiver 24/7 to be able to help them go around.
Mhm. And doctor, what about in like multi-generational homes? Do you have you dealt with families where the setup where there are children or grandchildren or whatever it is living with the patients who are older, or even a younger patient, a 50-year-old could be debilitated as well, even a 30-year-old, where they are there and they're willing to help, but you encounter these same frustrations.
Yes, because it's about work loss. They have to sacrifice their work to be able to take care of their loved ones who are sick. So we have to give them some type of respite care, Nicole, for them to be able to release that stress, and also give them time for themselves. Otherwise, they have this kind of caregiver burden syndrome. So we also interview the caregivers in terms of their quality of life to help them be able to take care of their loved ones who are sick. So it's not only the patient, but the one who's caring, we have to look after. Otherwise, it's got to be two patients, Nicole, that we're taking care of. Right.
Yes. And it's not, when you say burden, it's not necessarily a burden for some people. I'm asking and sort of saying at the same time. So maybe, if you want to jump in and interrupt me, correct me, please do so. It's not necessarily a burden, but there's also this, like, they don't know what to do with their own lives, and they can't, they want to give as much care as they can, but if they have to, there's trade-offs. If they have to work for monetary goods, which is important also in caring for the patient, then there's you can't spend time with them, and there's a guilt.
Yes,
because you'd like to spend
the guilt that's it's there surfacing. It's the guilt,
Am I not doing a good enough job? I cannot be there physically and maybe financially, and then and then they have relationships with other people as well, and then they're kind of, they just don't know how to manage it.
Yes, or sometimes they just need somebody to talk to, Nicole, and understand what they're doing is actually something really difficult. It's not them alone, right? It's a choice. It's a difficult choice, but at the end of it, it's something rewarding also.
Yes.
In our culture, you wouldn't look into somebody else who would take care of your own mother if you can, right? So it's actually a choice. But to some other cultures, they have options to do that. But here in the Filipino culture, it's actually hard to send them in nursing homes. Not yet, not so much. So I see a lot of family caregivers rather than the formal caregivers, because they really want to dwell and spend time, with their, especially their parents. And then the other side of the spectrum, Nicole, is the kids. Remember, if the child is sick, then a parent needs to sacrifice, right? Yes. His job, to be able to be with the kid, to do her or his chemo, things like that. So they have to journey together. And most of our patients are actually the parents rather than the
children, because they have to guide their children through the process. Okay, doctor, we're just going to take a short break, but to our viewers and doctor, when we get back, I'm going to ask doctor about the spiritual side and also more about caregiving and caregivers. So that we can really get down, we can really flesh this topic out when it comes to palliative care. If you got any questions, please call them in. You've got questions, we've got answers. Dr. Hossan has the answers for you. So everybody stay tuned. Talking with Makati Med. We'll be right back.
You're listening to DZRJ 810 AM. We'll be right back after these reminders.
Hi, this is Dr. Jacinto from Makati Medical Center, and I'm happy to share that our world-class quality healthcare with the heart is now more accessible and affordable at Makati Med Care Access, Araneta City. What's more, Makati Med Care Access is the only single-use hemodialysis center in Araneta City. It's now easier for patients to avail of renal care services right in the heart of Cubao. We offer health screening and diagnostic procedures in this facility at affordable rates. You can get services such as mammogram, ultrasound, lab procedures, ECG, and many others. We believe that access to affordable, quality, and compassionate healthcare is a basic human right. And we at Makati Med Care Access Araneta City are doing our best to make this possible to more people. You can find us at the ground floor of Manhattan Plaza Tower 1 in Araneta Center, Cubao. We are open from Mondays to Saturdays from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sundays from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. For inquiries, you may reach out to us at the numbers below. We look forward to serving you here at Makati Med Care Access, Araneta City.
You're back with Healthline, keeping you healthy, moderated by Nicole Jacinto.
Welcome back, folks. We're with Dr. Hawson of Makati Medical Center, and we're talking about palliative care, and she is the specialist in it. And I have interviewed her once, and we discussed it. During that time, doctor, I think we focused more on the end of life terms of on the end of life spectrum of palliative care. Now we're talking about everything else in
the
between.
Whole spectrum.
Whole spectrum, and we're fleshing
it's more accepted.
Yes, it is more accepted, and I'm glad we can talk about it and raise some awareness here. No,
Thank you.
It's an option, and it could do you a lot of good. We were talking earlier about maybe the people who are in between, who are caring for their parents or their children, and they we're talking about I mentioned there are trade-offs, because as you said, you also have to take care of the people who are taking care of their relatives or their loved ones, however, whatever way you want to think of family or people that you love. And it is a choice that people make, but it is rewarding. And you said in our culture, a lot of people, I think we have been taking care of either our parents or children ourselves and getting the help of extended family, for a very long time. Now, when it comes to palliative care, okay, when it comes to this, how do you actually, so patients come to you, and let's say you were saying you treat also the caregivers, not just the patient. We are talking about caregivers here in the sense of the people in the family who are the ones attending to this thing and exerting the effort, and who feel they're also mourning the sense of loss that the patient is mourning for him or herself or themselves. And have you what kind of services do you give both? You mentioned that sometimes they just need someone to talk to. So do you have a service where, are you used to, let's say, the caregiver is just giving you a call and saying, I need to see you?
Okay, both. It's either being referred or they come to me because they need some form of counseling. There are two types, Nicole. Like I've mentioned, there are formal caregivers, and then there are informal ones. The formal caregivers are the ones who are trained. So we also deal with them. My team in Makati Med, when we visit our patients at the home, we train them in terms of what to manage when they're at home, because the choice of care is already at home. So we want to actually minimize emergency room visits or direct admissions, or things like admissions that will make the family panic. So that's the reason why we support them in the home. So we teach and we guide the formal caregivers. So when they don't have access, or they're not able to finance, actually, that's the word. It's not cheap, Nicole,
I was gonna ask you and go there.
The formal caregivers, but Sometimes what we actually want to advocate is for them not to be the first one to panic, because there are allies at home. So the patient doesn't want to be brought back to the hospital. So they need to be the first one to do some form of basic palliative care, which is assessing them in terms of their symptoms. So they call us for even a teleconsult, no,
You can do that.
we can do that.
Okay.
You know, the pandemic has helped the palliative medicine specialists all over the Philippines. I have patients as far as Mindanao, to just guide them, no, through their chronic illness. And
Can I get your number later?
sorry,
Can I get your number later?
sure. I think
Okay.
you have mine. Anyway, we'll catch up. So I have actually, I'm the president of the Philippine Society of Hospice and Palliative Medicine, Nicole, now.
Yeah.
And we are around
I'm
70.
president.
We are already 70 around the country. So we're trying to produce more to be able to reach the far-flung areas. So the telemedicine has helped us manage basic palliative care and help our family physicians in those areas to be able to address the needs of our patients. So like let's go back to your question, the caregivers. So they are part of our assessment, because we want them to be our primary caregivers in terms of giving palliative care at home or in the outpatient setting, and then avoid unnecessary admissions, ER or inpatient. So we try to manage their symptoms.
I'd like to focus on the outpatient setting as we're talking about it. But before we completely delve into that, where does the inpatient setting come in? Does Makati Med offer any services like where there are patients who are there all the time or most of the time?
We do have inpatient palliative referrals when the symptoms are actually intractable. Like, let's give an example, like cancer patients who are in severe distress of dyspnea, pain, and they're not able to go home anymore at that time, at that acute phase. No? So they are being referred to us for symptom management and also to transition to home. That's
All right.
one. The other one,
always to home. It does go there.
not always home. So, home has two meanings, Nicole. I'll be very candid. So home, really where you live, or home where you need to go back to. So there are two things that we prepare them for. So it's both the same. We deal with the physical, psychosocial, even the spiritual aspects of care in transitioning both to which home they want to go to.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then we focus on we understand the other home, but let's focus on going home to the setting of where you live, how you live, the people you live with. And obviously you mentioned informal caregivers. So that means maybe the people taking care of the house, everything else, everything else that needs to run and function and making decisions. And then the formal caregivers, because even when you care for someone informally, you have, I guess, maybe this person managing stuff for the care of the patient, the general care, the health, the everything, perhaps the finances, and then the formal caregivers. Can we talk about that a bit? Because it is I think the term caregiver has been thrown around a lot. And I've met people who have the ability to do it, and they have the training. But I've also met people who have somehow been bestowed this title because of some training. Sorry, Testa, but a lot of the people you train, really do not train well. I'm saying that. It's not Makati Med saying that. It's me. They have your certification, but they don't know the first thing about caring for people. They don't even have compassion. Okay. And I think you really need that. Could you talk more about the formal caregivers? And that's also very expensive.
It is actually. It has risen from the time pre-pandemic, Nicole. We noticed that because they're very in demand now. Yeah. They're very in demand because they leave already. So nurses and caregivers are the formal, givers that we tap when they go home. So they're not cheap. It's actually, the price is even almost as the same as
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Doctor's cut off a little bit, but she'll be back in just a moment. We're just fixing that connection. Okay, hi doctor. Hang on.
being in the hospital. So,
Doctor, I'm sorry. You got cut off.
Nicole,
Said they're
hi.
not cheap. It's
Am I
almost,
back?
yes, you're back. It was like they're not cheap. It's expensive. It's almost like
Almost the same as the room rate. So, and they dictate. It's so hard because
Yes.
they're very scarce already. So
Mm.
we want to talk to them because, like what I've said a while ago, it's gonna be them who will be our allies in terms of caring for these patients and not being able to return back to the hospital, or
Yes.
can be when they're better. Not because when they're just panicking. Because we want to also lessen the financial burden. So that's also part of our care plan. So
Yes.
we want to train these caregivers to be able to manage remotely and contact us, and shy away from being readmitted. So thank God for technology, Nicole, because with this like this, we can do video calls, we can assess, not 100%, but of course it's better than being waiting in the ER, being
Yes.
swabbed for how many times,
Do you assess the personality of
Yes.
a caregiver, of a formal, when you have that? Because that is something that informal caregivers or people like hiring them and managing them have to assess. And I'll tell you right now, I'll be very candid too. I know a few. I know a few caregivers who are very good, and I think it stems from their personality. Actually, I like to
It's a
call them.
gift, Nicole.
I beg your pardon.
It's a gift.
It's a gift. I'll call them out right now. Like I'll say, Marjorie, thank you so much for caring for my relative. You are wonderful. And I'll say, Karine, thank you. You're really good. And I'll say Maria, who she's not a caregiver. She works for the family, but she takes over when needed to. And even Nina, like I'll call out these people who care for people, who know what they need, who can jive with them physically and not make a patient feel ashamed or incapable. And it is a difficult job, but lastly also, a good one, but there are others who are taking advantage of it, and I'm sorry, but I gotta call you guys out.
Yeah.
The people who are taking advantage of the need, the need for
Definitely.
informal and care and formal care.
Because they know there's scars, Nicole. So some, not all, but some take advantage of that position of theirs.
Yes.
So I usually talk to my patients and their families in terms of expectations. So it's a service. So I tell them that if you don't like, we have to find the perfect one, because our reason for going home or being in an outpatient setting is to lessen even the emotional and mental and psychosocial problems. So
And the financial also
yeah, of course, the financial. If these caregivers are not, the perfect one, or there's so many things, you have more problems rather than the patient. So we have to look for somebody, because there is always somebody perfect for them. And we call that a gift and a blessing.
Gift and a blessing, yes. And I'd like to thank those I called out. Do you also find, though, that there are disruptive family members on the other side, no? Let's be fair, there are disruptive family members who they have an idea of how patients should be cared for, and then they kind of like, I've seen so many settings where they have all these corrections, and then, it's somebody says this or that, because sometimes people are know-it-alls. And sometimes they don't mean it, because maybe they're also concerned or whatever it is, or you think you know better than this person or that person. And even the patient's perspective gets skewed.
Yeah.
Like the person.
The other side, Nicole, is the other side of it, because I'm telling you, internet is to our advantage, but also some are to our disadvantage because of Dr. Google. They see in Google that this is the best way to do it. So they come to you with a care plan already. Doc, we should do this, do this, do this, do this. We haven't asked your mom what she likes. No?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
palliative care is about preferences. Palliative care is what they want, their wishes. So some caregivers, which are mostly the family members who want this already set, for their loved ones. And I said, no, that's not the case. We have to talk to your mom or your dad, but you don't need to know things like that. So it's hard, Nicole. It's really case to case because
Case to case.
these informal caregivers are the financiers naman. So so it's hard. No? So we have to weigh. It has to be a win-win, because when we look into quality of life, again, we go back to quality of life. Those aspects of care needs to be discussed with. So
I'll give you a situation where, okay, let's deal with all three things. One, there's the patient. Of course, it's the patient's wishes. Two, there's the informal caregivers who also are charged with being the overall,
Care.
being kind of the managers, no? Yes, overall care. And then we have the formal caregivers who are in charge of the actual care. Sometimes there is commotion when it comes to all three dealing with each other. Do you find one that some patients, you have to talk to them because they're also hard-headed? That happens. Okay.
We do talk about that when we do family meetings, because they're already part of the family, because they're the carers. So we have to, it's really open. I've been considered as a daughter to a lot of families already, Nicole, because I have to mediate.
Yes.
And sometimes the formal caregivers think they know best. So because I did this to my other patients, sabi ko, well, right? That's their statement. No, my other patient did this. So I said, this is not what your patient wants. So we will try this first, okay? And then let's go back. No, give me a week.
Also patient na matigas din yung ulo or thinks, maybe it's just they're expressing themselves like they want this because they have lost something else. They also have to listen to the formal caregiver.
You look at this, Nicole, because when you are a patient, you lose some sense of control.
Yes.
So for these patients who are very active, who have stronger personality, and then they're now helpless, just imagine that's the only way they can try to control you, to say something opposite of what you do. So there's some, psych into it, because you need to really understand where they're coming from. That behavior or that attitude comes from something. Yes. And that has to be discussed. It's not going to be on just a one sitting.
Yes.
It comes naturally when you get to know the patient and the family themselves and the dynamic. That's the important thing. The family dynamics, because it helps you deal with the patient's illness and his or her journey, because that's part of how they react or how they live on a day-to-day.
You have to address what's really bothering them.
Sometimes it's a reaction to the illness. Most often, it's not sometimes, most often, it's the reaction to the illness. That's why they're being, your term is stubborn, right?
Stubborn. And then, but the formal caregiver should also have some training in being patient.
Yes, I agree. And then they can't have a job if they're not. It's not for them. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I find a lot of people try to do just because it's in demand. Well, I want to be a caregiver, then you don't really have it in your heart. Okay. Now let's deal with the middle person, the informal caregiver. Sometimes you will have a family where there are children, there are grandchildren, there's whatever, there's husbands, maybe more than one wife. I don't know. But I mean, of course, and at a certain stage, things, everyone has their opinion. How about the informal caregivers where they have such opinions, and they kind of they influence the patient to not like a certain formal caregiver who they already have a connection with and who is doing his or her job anyway. Have you encountered that?
Yes. Yes, Nicole. So I mostly deal with them in a family meeting. I call a family meeting and then call everyone else who's involved in the care. And then, of course, at the end of the day, we look into what's best for the patient. It's always...
Okay. Hi, Doctor froze a little bit. Could you mind repeating that, Doctor? It's a whole. Sorry, Doctor, do you mind picking up from you look into what's best for the
patient.
And then it's a whole.
okay, I lost myself there. It's a
Yeah.
whole, it's a whole.
It's a whole, not a half.
Yeah, so we have to meet as a whole, maybe as a whole in terms of care, a care plan for the patient. You have to meet with the decision maker, the financer, the formal and the informal caregivers, because at the end of the day, the goal is what's best for the patient. So it's a communication skill, Nicole, that we have to do, and it's not just one sitting. And we have to establish some form of rapport. That's why I'm telling you, I'm already a daughter of a lot of families, because I deal with even their personal issues, because it comes in between, and we have to talk about it because it surfaces, and
Yes.
sometimes it's the problem. So
It's the problem, not just the illness,
the
but
patient, and have more peace of mind for all of them. Mhm.
okay, doc. So that's really good, because like there's I mean, if you like need volunteers or something or whatever, I mean, I'm not a doctor, I'm a non-medical professional, but this is something that is close to my heart, whatever it is, because it's a big, it's like healing the community and recreating the community of the household or family again. And I don't know how people dealt with it before, but perhaps our lives have changed because of modernization or economics, economic considerations. Like now, if you don't work, you really won't earn. I mean, things have just, you won't earn enough to be able to afford even your own healthcare, no?
That's why I advocate, Nicole, palliative care is everybody's business.
Yes, yes.
It's everybody's business.
So and doctor, okay. So when you do, you are available for teleconferences, and you do assess the personalities also.
Yes.
Well, that's good, because you can't just take people's word for it.
Yeah, even some of the families of my patients would say, "Doc, please join us with the interview, and then please let us know, because you know already what type of care our loved ones need, right?" So I join them, and then I say, "Sorry, let's find another one." That's why I said that it's a service provider, so we can always get someone who's perfect for that. Because sometimes they always put their best foot forward, right, in an interview. But when it comes to the actual, oh my, when we visit and then we see, oh no, no. Yeah.
And even interviewing in itself or finding is stressful,
Definitely.
Very stressful, and you're already thinking, is this person gonna try to pull one over me? How long are they gonna last? And then sometimes you find the right one, and it's such a wonderful feeling.
Yeah, but just imagine if I don't do that for my patients, families, there will be the one bugging me, and my quality of life will definitely be.
I was gonna ask you, so you have a question here, Doc. How about you? Do you need care?
Definitely. We call it self-care, Nicole. We call it self-care. So there's a saying that by Warren Mueller that you have to invest with compassion and mercy to yourselves. Why? Because how can you give care and healing to other persons if you don't give, to attend to yourself first? So we have to do a lot of loving to ourselves before giving back. So
yes,
all right.
That's kind of it's kind of the opposite, but not exactly, because it's also about loving yourself. A lot of times before, I think people would say more often in the past, like, if you don't love yourself, how is someone else gonna love you?
Something like that.
But in our case, for what we're talking about, if you don't love yourself, how are you gonna be able to love other people?
Yeah, how can you be able to care for someone else if you don't know how to care for yourself? So you do have to do some self-care.
As RuPaul says, if you don't, what does he say? Sorry, in his show, if you don't love yourself, how the hell are you gonna love somebody else? Okay. I believe I remember that. Okay, kudos to you, RuPaul. Suddenly you're in our conversation. You know how I am, Doc. My mind just goes everywhere, but it comes back to the point. And one of them is, okay, so I was able to ask you, how about you, Doc? Do you need care? You do. Okay. And
you so much loving. I asked myself, I asked my friends, for some virtual hugs.
Yeah.
When I get to some heated discussions with the families, because like what you're saying, no, we do this, we do this. And I said, oh my God, I'm so drained trying to explain. And I say, well, let's meet another day. And then I'll message my friends to shout out to Ara and DJ, messaging them, I need a virtual hug just to recharge me. And then, of course, go back to work again.
Go back to work. Okay. And how, okay, since we're on the topic, what do you think it takes? What qualities do you think it takes to be a palliative care doctor or specialist, or to be involved in that field in the medical, like, formal medical setting as you are, and two, as a formal caregiver, because that's a job choice.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with you. What does it take? Because there's maybe people interested right now and going, I want to be a doctor in palliative care, right? You're 70 now, all over the Philippines. You said
Yes.
telemedicine has helped. We're raising awareness here. There might be people who are actually going to med school and who want to do it, or maybe we have young kids watching, because we have some young kids who watch this show. I love you guys. But they do. They like it. Maybe they want to be grow up.
Yeah. Please do.
So what
multiply 70?
Yeah. So what would it take? I mean, for you, what do you think are the most important qualities to be a palliative care specialist, or work in the formal medical setting of palliative care?
Okay, for the formal training, Nicole, you have to go through really med school, right? Med school, and then go into residency program of family medicine. It's in the Philippines, is the only specialty that goes into subspecialization of hospice and palliative medicine. So we have 5 actually accredited institutions in the Philippines that have this training, and of course we're developing more.
Okay.
And that's for the doctors. But for the nurses, we're already trying to work with Hospice Philippines, and for allied professionals who want to be palliative care providers, because we have also partner with Department of Health. We're already launching the training of basic and intermediate palliative care providers. So hopefully, if not last quarter of this year, probably next year, to roll out for palliative care providers, basic palliative care providers. But for the doctors, you have to go through training. So yeah, for the kids, please do. We need lots of doctors. And apart from just being palliative, but we need a lot of doctors.
And when it comes to palliative care, this is a training you need to do. Now, when you're interested in it, what personality traits do you think somebody has to have to be a palliative care specialist in the medical profession, or a formal caregiver?
Okay, it takes a lot of communication skills. That's the reason why we are trained from family medicine. You've seen how I was explaining a while ago that we deal a lot with families, because it's the training ground, the training ground where we are exposed with how we deal with the families and how it is related to the illness. And that's also the core competency is listening, communicating, also making a care plan, also what they call this, helping them in the community. So it's primary care, it's grassroots. Also in terms of the healthcare. So it's a family physician who's the gateway to referring to the subspecialists. Nicole?
Yes, it's the family physician who's the gateway to referring to subspecialists. And also you need good communication skills. I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of it happens with communication. And sometimes, do you find that it's our culture as well? Because there are people like, oh, I don't want to answer my boss back, but you're not actually answering back. And then there are some who don't want to understand their boss, who think like it's not part of it. I'm just supposed to do the physical stuff. And then there are also like maybe people in between who do not, it's like they think they command, without they command the caregivers without getting their opinion. Do you see extreme cases, or are they all basically like that?
Extreme cases, Nicole. So we've experienced people who we sometimes say na, how can he be the son or the daughter of this very beautiful person?
Yes.
So, we get to experience that.
How can you be the daughter,
yeah.
or husband,
Yeah,
or the wife of this?
Yeah, but this patient of ours is very nice, very kind, and then you end up with a caregiver who doesn't even have a small feeling of love or care. So sometimes we also try to understand where they're coming from, or probably their past, or something happened in the past why this relationship is kind of off,
Yes.
And to me, again, I'm telling you, it's a blessing. It's a gift, because we try to make it work for them. We try our best. Not everything is, a good ending story, but we try to patch up what has been lost, because most of the time something went wrong along the way. So that's the beautiful thing there, that we get to, experience some form of rekindling, or
On the other side, doctor, I mean, what makes me sad, because I've seen it, and people my age, my friends, let's just not talk about my age, but we've seen it. What happens sometimes is that, okay, when we talk about seniors especially, you see these things, no? You mentioned
more on
how,
the seniors. Yeah.
how can this person be the wife of this? How can this awful person be the wife of this great guy? Or how can this awful guy be the husband of this great woman, or the children, no? Or the nephews, nieces, whatever it is? And you were saying, okay, of course it's something in the past, but on the other side, perhaps these people are exposed for who they really are. Maybe not having compassion, maybe they're narcissistic.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a personality.
yeah, and nobody noticed because there was no crisis to bring
That's
it
correct.
No, so you've talked about patch up. On the other end, have you seen, like, okay, you know what? Just get rid of that person, because you're not really present in your mind, in your heart, in your soul for the hard stuff.
That happens.
Hard in our culture, but it happens.
It happens, Nicole. It's so sad. Sometimes they are left with just the formal caregivers. So we really become their family, because we take care of them in the homes with the formal caregivers. So that happens, and it's sad. Thinking about the culture, I said, but not so much. Probably, I have to relate it with the exposure to the other cultures, no? But to us, it happens. That's what I'm saying. It happens.
But it's better to get rid of a poisonous person within a patient's life rather than, keep them there, or, set their limits.
Yeah, we have to talk about limitations. We have to set. That's the reason why we become their, what they call this, the referee.
Yeah.
So
exist.
No, you're telling me because some of my friends who don't work in healthcare would ask, how can you do that? So that's why we have to put self-care. If you absorb all those negativity, it's actually hard, Nicole. So I shout out to my husband also. So he's been very supportive in all these times, because he knows how I went through each patient and their family as well.
And now we go to the spiritual side. I left it for kind of last. So we have discussed all these things. I didn't even look at some of the questions I had ready, because just talking to you brought this.
We've been talking like this 6 years ago.
Yes. Just, sometimes let it fly. I checked them. Well, you answered them. I just checked them earlier during the break. Well, you answered them, no? And we're having a conversation. And this is more of a conversation than an interview right now. And I'm glad, because I guess maybe that's how you communicate also. You drew me into a conversation about palliative care. And I was just very candid. And thank you for being candid as well. Shout out to your husband also, and your friends who give you virtual hugs. As I said, I'm glad you exist. Okay. Let's talk about the spiritual side, because we have mentioned nutrition. There's also there's psych.
Side.
There's the actual medicating, actual care that comes. And you do bring in people from other disciplines. And you yourself, you are like the manager of all of this. You deal with the patient, the informal caregivers, whatever their roles are within the family, the whole family, even the ones who are just chirping from the side. And then you deal also with the formal caregivers. And when it comes to spirituality, okay, how do you deal with that?
That's a very sensitive topic, Nicole, for Filipinos. So I try to ask.
You don't have to answer if you don't want, but
I mean very sensitive. I'm saying it's very sensitive for the patients. Yes. So it's hard to actually discuss. But I have questions. I have questions when they're ill. That's what I'm telling you. They have been asking some form of existential questions. Why me? Am I being punished? So we have questions. We have sets of questions to ask our patients if they're ready to discuss it. Because again, it's very important to ask consent or permission to be able to discuss these matters. No.
Did you have patients who approach you about spirituality? Then you still have to ask, like, well, we need your permission to talk about this?
No. What I'm saying is that it's a skill that we do to be able to arrive to discuss that, because it's something sacred. So people don't really talk about it. So it's good for us specialists when the patient will be opening it up already to ask these kinds of questions and also to ask for help in terms of spiritual care. But it's so hard for the Filipinos to be asked for do you need this? You can't. It's very, that's what I'm saying. It's very sensitive. Yeah. So we have to be very careful. It's a communication skill that I'm saying that there are questions that we do ask if they're ready to talk about it.
Okay. So I'll ask you some questions that might, could arise, or maybe some topics, and then you can answer, you don't have to answer, but this is hypothetical.
Sure.
So that you're not talking about any patients you've handled or been, any kind of conversation you've been through. This is hypothetical. If I were in the patient's position or in their family's position, some things would come to mind. Like I would think, okay, why did this happen to me? I haven't done anything wrong. Secondly, maybe I did something wrong. You start doubting yourself. Third, there's also like, I noticed a lot of people feel like, okay, this happened to me. I'm debilitated now, but God blessed me with something else. There's like a trade-off.
Yes.
And then you feel like, okay, I have something else. Like maybe I was financially rewarded, but this happened to me. So they're like, I'll accept it. I'll accept this debilitation and not really try to heal it.
Sometimes they say it's my cross. So there's the term, it's my cross.
My cross.
But I need someone to be with me to deal with it. So they thank us to join them in their journey. But sometimes they call it their cross.
Their cross. Okay. So when we talk about cross, we're obviously talking about, I'll be the one. It's not you. It's not coming from me. It's coming from me. We're talking about Catholics Catholics are Christians anyway. Catholic just means universal. If you're a Christian, you believe in Jesus Christ as your savior. So when we talk about the cross, it's obviously that, because that is the symbol of not just suffering, but redemption. But of course, when somebody says it's my cross to bear with, this is something I have to deal with in order for me to be redeemed. So, do you ever have conversations with priests, or because it's not just for them to feel more comfortable, or psychiatrists, because of course some people will be like, yeah, God is really like that. While the others are like, yeah, you should be grateful that you're not worse off, but God is a loving God. These kind of type of questions come up. I know I'm the one asking, just kind of.
It's just that when I'm saying that, it's very sensitive, because we ask what type of religion first, and then if they need some support. So mostly my patients are not too open in That's what I'm saying, not to open in asking for spiritual support. But
Yes.
when they ask for it, that is something that we try to help them deal with it or refer them
Yes,
to
doctor.
community resources. So, what do you call this? It's the support group that we look for them. We tap for them to be able to address that spiritual pain, that
Yes.
existential questions, because we're not the experts, but we're the bridge. We're always the manager, to help them. So we have sets of questions when we talk to our patients, if they need it. If we feel, we assess that they need some spiritual support, or it's them who's asking for it. So we look into which they prefer. So that's what I'm saying. If they're
Yes.
Catholic, they're Christians, they're Muslims, they're Buddhists, they have different practices in terms of support. But we're here to guide them with the questions we ask.
Groups.
When we ask them that, it seems that that's a spiritual pain, I'm not the expert on that, so I have to ask support from the community who will be able to address that form of questioning or spiritual pain that
Yes.
they're going through. It's actually mostly at the end of life. Mostly at the end of life. At the start, they won't be too open. When you're diagnosed with stroke, with cancer, they don't usually have these existential questions. It mostly comes when the physical symptom is unbearable, or the physical symptom is too debilitating for them to do their day-to-day, Nicole. So they ask a certain form of being, some existential questions like, why
Yeah.
me? Why is it happening? Not specifically, diba? So,
I understand, Doc.
or in
Thank
my other life, is this my karma? So,
I was gonna say, okay, so if it's perhaps someone who practices like Hinduism or Buddhism,
there.
it's my karma because I did something in the last life, or I did not learn my lesson. Is this my way to reach nirvana?
Yeah.
Or it's karma, not just in the way that we generally think, like, oh, you did something bad yesterday, so today you fell flat on your face. It's not like that. It's a
Wow.
karmic like question, like a big spiritual thing, like I was born to bear this or to learn this lesson. There's a karmic thing from generations past. Like, what else did I deal with in a past life? That kind of thing. So those are big questions, and you have people you can refer them to.
In the community.
Yes, a community. And then if it's Muslim, there are questions that if their practice Islam, there are questions that come up as well.
Yes.
And you deal with all sorts of religions, people who are from different religions. If it comes up, you can refer them.
Yes.
And you can talk to them about some things, and you have sets of questions. That is good to know, doctor. What about atheists? Have you met any atheists? And they're like, well, yeah, okay.
Yes. But again, I told you it's the end of life. I myself got too scared, about that, because really it was my first patient who was
Absorbed it.
And then, something like that. But I have to. That's a self-care. It's a skill also that you can't absorb, and that's a rule at in the home, that you can't bring what's in the hospital to the house. Otherwise, it's gonna be a problem at night. So I try myself not to bring it. I try my best to bring it home. So that atheist But what's surprising, Nicole? During the end of life, he was asking for the crucifix.
Oh, okay.
So, we just have to deal with that during that time, because they didn't have one. So he was looking for it. So we have to give it, because it's like already a preference and something important to him at that moment of his life.
And I'll tell you, doctor, I mean, I've met some atheists who are really kind, and that shows more than people who say they're part of this religion, but they actually spit on God and spit on other people in the way they practice their life. So I'm just saying it's a whole thing. Bringing this out there for everyone. don't also be afraid to go to palliative care if you have these existential questions. And it's like, going back to college and being, okay, now that I sort of don't know and kind of know everything, what am I supposed to do? You've probably been in those classes where you're like, okay.
Okay.
So, people get to that point where you're like, why am I
here?
I'm doing
what
am
I taking?
Yeah, I
Should
know.
I shift?
Yes. Should I even be here?
Mhm.
God, please answer me, or are you there? Or am I here? Do I even exist? These things, I came across a lot in college and sometimes still do, because I'm just like that. And I have friends who I discuss these things with, but it all boils down to a point where we're here to be a supportive community. And for you, doctor, in terms of palliative care, do you find that, whatever it is, like, you have to find people who understand also religion or spiritual questions, like in your team, who are not judgmental, or, it's like the care comes first, or the science sometimes comes first before before the bias of religion?
Well, it's a biopsychosocial approach, Nicole. So it comes together. It's a layer of support, actually. It's a layer of support. I don't want to say that it comes first, but we are a support in terms of addressing that other aspect of care. So it becomes holistic, not only dealing with the physical, because we don't want to deal with the patient as an illness, but, as a whole person. Not
So
only...
Yes, as a whole person. So it's a layer. I threw you some difficult questions. Thank you, doctor, for answering them. With you, it's no holds barred. Just like with Dr. Gochu last year, I was like, bam, And I love that because, yes, a very honest conversation comes out of it. And this conversation is something that I hope a lot of people, participate in a bigger sense. And maybe I do hope the show reaches the people who need it the most for themselves. And okay, doctor, perhaps I will ask you for anything you'd like. We'll just take a very short break, and then I'll ask you just a few short questions, or if you have any messages, like after the short break. I'm sure there are people there's more things you want to say to either the patients, the informal caregivers, or the caregivers. Stay tuned, folks. We're just going to take a short break. We'll be right back. This is Healthline with Makati Med. We're with Dr. Hoson talking about palliative care. I'm your host, Nicole Jacinto. Stay tuned.
You're listening to DZRJ 810 AM. We'll be right back after these reminders.
Hi, this is Dr. Gia Season, and welcome to Makati Med Wellness Center. Located at Ayala North Exchange, the Makati Med Wellness Center is a warm and comfortable state-of-the-art lifestyle center where executive checkups and services that address holistic patient care and wellness can be done. We have a skin and laser hub, diagnostic imaging, health screening, mind and wellness care, and physical medicine and rehabilitation. The Wellness Center is equipped with modern facilities and staffed with competent healthcare professionals who are committed to deliver premium, personalized, and easy access healthcare services for both adult and pediatric patients alike. This is a great place to prioritize your health and well-being without having to be at the hospital setting. We are open from Monday to Saturday at 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the 7th floor of Ayala North Exchange, Tower 1 in Makati City. It is also accessible from the Makati Med Hospital through a bridgeway to Ayala North Exchange. For inquiries, you may reach us at these numbers. We look forward to serving you here at Makati Med Wellness Center.
You're back with Healthline, keeping you healthy. Moderated by Nicole Jacinto.
Okay, folks, you're back. We're back. Healthline Makati Med is back. I'm your host, Nicole Jacinto. We, of course, have Dr. Marie Hoson from Makati Med, and we're talking about palliative care. Now, just throughout the show, Doctor, we've discussed a whole bunch of things and even gone into the spiritual, everything that you mentioned that has to do basically with palliative care. And I've asked you some specific, difficult questions, scenarios, all of that. Thank you for answering them and not shying away and, giving us very informative and intelligent answers that educate us. Also, I feel the compassion that you have for people in general, and especially the people who need you the most, which are the patients and the families of those who need palliative care. Now, to round up the conversation, Doctor, are there any advancements that have been made in palliative care since we've spoken? One is telecommunication. Anything else like that helps your practice and helps people who need your help?
Oh, actually, you can tap the rest of the 69 palliative medicine specialists all over the Philippines. We have we can tap the website. It's info@pshpm.org. So you can check whether the specialist is around your area. They will be able to help you communicate or bridge with the family physicians or the other specialists who are available in their regions also. So
that's info at psh.org. Okay. As doctor, is there anything else you'd like to say to patients, informal caregivers, formal caregivers, whatever it is, to people out there?
Okay. So
care.
I want to stress out that palliative care is about quality of life. It's about the lived experience of our patients and not only the dying. Okay. So we're here to actually help and support you go through that journey of your illness, whether it be cancer or any chronic illness. So it's not a death sentence. We're here to help you improve your quality of life with your patients, with your families and your loved ones. So, yeah. Don't be afraid when you refer to palliative care.
Sorry, I just thought of this now. Quick question, because we're running out of time, but we don't have enough time to talk about it. But any quick answer you may have? Do we have any type of nursing homes or anything like that where you as palliative care specialists really do practice when patients need to go to a place?
Yes. Yeah. They're being referred. Yeah, they're being referred to us, and then we visit them in their nursing homes, Nicole.
And you still have to deal with families.
Yes,
with families. In a nursing home doesn't mean that you don't care.
Yes, yes, definitely. Yeah,
but it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna be a big practice in our culture.
Yes,
not for the next maybe 50.
Yeah. So, also, Nicole, to my colleagues out there, thank you so much for your hard work. Yeah. And all the love and the support from your families as well as mine. Shout out to my husband, 𝗛𝗶𝗁 Hoson. Thank you for your
shout out to 𝗛𝗶𝗁 Hoson.
Thank you for every day. My family, Margot Hoson, Lara Hoson, Laarni. Thank you so much for being there for me. Lola Elsie and Lolo Pete.
So you, doctor, put together. You help so many people and their families, and your family helps you do that. So I'd like to thank them also, even if I don't know them.
They love to hear that from you. My husband watching.
Oh, okay. For helping you, be there. Thank you for existing. Okay, we all
Thank
know.
you for the love, because I can give it back.
Thank you, doctor. And for all those who have any more questions, you can also, of course, go to the Makati Med website. You can watch the show over and over again. You can contact, as Dr. Hoson said, there are 70 specialists all over the Philippines. And of course, some of them, there, as she said, there may be someone near you. And just reminding people out there, you can telecon. If you need to talk and it's not exactly a physical thing that you need to get into, and they do give holistic care, and I can feel it. And having seen you for how many years the last time, you are thriving in what you're doing, and it's a very, very important job. It's not just about being a doctor, it's about being a healer. So thank you, Dr. Hoson, and thank you to your family that helps you be one of the doctors and healers that we need, not just in the Philippines, but in the whole world. And I hope that spreads and influences more doctors to be there, not just for the thrill of it or the money or the whatever, but because you care. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicole.
We are out of time, folks. But thank you for watching and tuning into Healthline with Makati Med. Anything else you'd like to say, Doctor? Just throw out there. I'll give you the floor before we say bye.
And we have Facebook also for the Philippine Society. So if they have questions, then we can guide them also for that. All right. Okay. It's easier access in Facebook.
Okay. So it's info@psh.org. And then that's also on Facebook, the Philippine Society of
Hospice and Palliative Medicine.
And palliative medicine. Okay. Thank you, Doctor, for being on the program.
Thank you, Nicole.
So we connected.
We'll catch up soon.
Yes. And we really will. And then, or I'm going to, I hope to catch up with you soon. And then, thank you very much, Doctor, for being on the program. Thank you for for accepting the invitation. And thank you again to the audience for watching and, for the good feedback we get. Thank you so much to everyone. And this has been Healthline with Makati Med. I'm your host, Nicole Jacinto. We'll be back next week. So stay Monday, 5 to 6:30 p.m. Stay tuned for the next program. Bye, Doc.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Healthline with expert doctors from Makati Med, giving you the chance to interact, uplifting your lifestyle. Moderated by Nicole Jacinto. Tune in again next week for your weekly dose of Healthline.